Welcome, everybody, to episode 243 of WordPress Weekly for Wednesday, August 10th, 2016. I'm Jeff Chandler. Man, look at this. My head's already messed up because I haven't done this in 2 weeks. I'm your host, Jeff Chandler, joined by my co-host, Marcus Couch.
Hello.
Marcus, long time no talk, buddy.
Yeah, lots happened since then, and we're going to talk about that.
All right, and so I would let you know that I did try and do a show last week by myself. Boy, I did not like that experience. I was doing the show. I went through some show notes, and I'm like, boy, I don't like this. I don't like the way it feels. I can't do this. I don't have my breaks. I need to drink water. I'm like, I'm done. I can't do it. I rely on Marcus too much. I can't do the show without.
Well, can I say something? When I found that out, that gave me a real good feeling. I mean, I thought that it's like I was needed, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that you couldn't do it yourself. I feel like doing the Shaq Kobe rap right now, you know. Jeff couldn't do it without me. Hey, Jeff.
Who's that third voice?
Oh, whoops. I feel like this is the third voice in you guys' head, I think, but I feel like
voice of reason.
Every good business, every good anything endeavor needs a really good sidekick, and you guys just said that you guys are sidekicks for each other, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
nice. And
grown into it. We grew into the role. Yes.
That was our special guest on tonight. His name is Corey Miller, the founder of iThemes. Also a cool dude, WordPress mental advocate, and we brought him on the show tonight. In fact, Marcus, I believe are you going to honor him with the title?
Oh, Corey, I think I have to still make it, but we're going to honor you with official friend of the show title, and you're going to get a fancy graphic and all that you can put on your profiles and stuff.
Boom.
So,
you guys can't see me, but I'm doing like the happy dance.
Okay. Well,
that's an exclusive title.
Yeah, we've only really officially given it like that in graphic format to only Matt Mullenweg so far. So
I'm in rare company now. Then I'm number 2, baby.
Yep, I got to fire up Photoshop. I got to make another one from the template. Here we go. We're on a roll now.
So for all our listeners out there tonight, this is going to be a serious show. We've got Marcus and I both have things that we want to get off our chest. We're going to talk about some serious subjects tonight. There might be a few laughs here and there, but I don't know. Depending on the pre-show, it might be few and far between. But before we get to all that, I want to take this time to talk a little bit about the state of Oklahoma's first inaugural WordCamp event for the state, which was WordCamp Oklahoma City, that I had the distinct pleasure of celebrating and being a part of that as an attendee. And it was a great event. Lynn Dye and Morgan Estes did a great job putting that on, as well as all the other volunteers. You couldn't even tell it was the first WordCamp. It was very well run. The Wi-Fi worked. It looked like the attendees had a great time. The space was great. The best part about it was air conditioned, because let me tell you, Oklahoma is hot. It's very hot and it's very humid. So I tried my best not to go outside that much. But overall, I had a good time. Really enjoyed Chris Lema's presentation, where he talked about the journey that people go through in finding the information that they need. And he had this, as he always does, had a great story to go along with about boat shopping and how he didn't know about this boat. So we went here and found information about that, which led him to here. And, he talks about this big, long journey and how you always have to be writing for the people who are on that journey to get them where they need to be. So that was interesting. And then as a side benefit to being in Oklahoma, my partner in crime, Sarah Gooding, who also works on WB Tavern, she lives in Tulsa, and I managed to meet up with her, and we had like this mini tavern summit. The automatic people at Automatic, they have this grand meetup every year, and we have our grand meetup. It's like 2 people, so it's very extravagant there in Oklahoma. And by the way, I noticed that things in Oklahoma are cheap. Gas was like $1.70. Food was cheap. Everything was cheap. So I don't know what that is about the affordability of things down there. Even real estate is very affordable down there. You get a lot for your money in some areas of Oklahoma City and Tulsa. So there's that. Overall, I had a great time. In fact, someone who lives just outside, he could see downtown from his backyard, is actually Mr. Corey Miller. And Corey, what did you think about your state's first WordCamp event?
We're super proud to have, iTheme's headquarters here is in North Oklahoma City in a suburb called Edmond. So when the organizing committee, the volunteers at the meetup were like talking about this, it was super exciting for us to have this. I think I've probably gone to like 35, 40 WordCamps over the last 8.5 years, and to finally have one here was quite the joy. Now, I'll tell you, I confess to you that I did not want to be on the organizing committee. I have so many friends who are WordCamp organizers, who have been organizers, that I said, you know what, my joy is to be able to come, sponsor, be at the event, perhaps speak, and although I didn't speak, it was quite awesome to have WordCamp here in Oklahoma for the first time ever.
And a lot of people don't know this, but prior to WordCamp Oklahoma City taking place on Friday, you hosted a cool event at your house called Friends of iThemes. Tell us a little bit about the genesis of that event.
Over the last 8.5 years, it's been probably the greatest pleasure and joy in my life to have developed amazing relationships, just amazing friendships in WordPress. And I told that group, we invited about 30 people, 35 people here into our office, into our city, state, and also, like Jeff, because you were here, into our home. And so we made some invitations just to say, come be a part of the first WordCamp Oklahoma City or / WordCamp Oklahoma. And so we wanted to treat them because, I've having spoken, sponsored, and attended a ton of my friends' WordCamps over the years, I thought it's time to say, come into Oklahoma City, even if it's July in the sweltering heat. But that was probably the most special time for us, is just to have some close friends. Now, if our house could hold every single friend and amazing relationship, including you two guys that I've had in WordPress, we would have done that. But we, these friendships are just incredible. We had, of course, Chris Lemma and Pippin Williamson, Scott Bollinger from AppPresser, just a lot of other people, Kareem Mariachi from Crowd Favorite. And so just a good time just to say, hey, come in, let's just talk before the event and talk about what's on our mind. And it was just a fun time. And then to have everybody to come into my home, meet my kids and our little dog was pretty special for us. So it was kind of a once-in-a-lifetime thing that I'm now hooked on, and I want to say we won't just do that in Oklahoma. We want to do it in other places so other friends like Mr. Marcus here can attend if we get out his way too.
Yeah, well, from the sound of what Jeff's saying about real estate, hell, I might just buy some land and right next to you, and we'll just have WordCamp there next year. Who knows?
Well, trust me, I've seen it firsthand. There's plenty of land to be had in Oklahoma.
All right.
It was
down.
Quite interesting.
Let's get a Kickstarter going.
Well, one of the highlights for me, and go figure, from the Friends of iThemes event was the barbecues. So Corey had this event catered by a barbecue company, and they cooked up some
Best
chicken and some pork. To me, it was pretty damn good. I don't know what other people thought.
Was it a local legend? Who is it, Corey?
So we tried to do everything we could possibly do local to Oklahoma, so that our friends from all over, that a lot of whom had not been to Oklahoma ever, we said, okay, we gave them chocolates that were made in Oklahoma by an Indian tribe here, Native American Indian tribe. And you should have got one, by the way, Jeff. And then shirts, of course, we got to do shirts for everything. Right. And then the barbecue was just a local place that we had found that would do some really good barbecue, and that was a treat. And Jeff got to look up, in view of Oklahoma City downtown, also look up and see the stars at the same time, and that's what makes, I think, our home here in Oklahoma pretty special to us.
Cool. Yeah, it was definitely, you guys have a beautiful home, beautiful family, and it was an honor for you to invite me and allow me to be part of that. That was a great experience. Of
course, hey, Marcus, I don't know if you know this, but Jeff and I go back to March 2008, the first WordCamp DFW ever, Dallas-Fort Worth.
Yeah, you said that.
Yeah, I mean, I go back as far as I still remember the atmosphere. You walk down the steps in the restaurant, there were people playing pool or games there. Nathan Rice was there. You were there. Some of the first founding employees of iThemes, I believe, were there. Charles Strickland. He was one of the, I think he was the lead organizer, if I remember correctly, of that event. So I definitely that event is imprinted on my mind forever.
See, I gotta tell you guys, I was using WordPress then, but I was in the podcast world, right? I was doing music shows and I was doing affiliate stuff mostly. Like the only plugin development things I needed was how to take it from an Excel file and make posts out of it with, my affiliate links embedded. So WordCamp wasn't in the cards for me because I was a user. I wasn't really into the community, at the time. And that's one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't get involved as much as I am now then.
So overall, WordCamp Oklahoma City, a great time, and hopefully the organizers get together and put on the event again next year. So I have some things, like I said, beginning of the show, we both have things that we want to get off our chest, so I'm going to open the floor, and Marcus, let you do what you got to do.
Okay, so there's a reason we have Corey on, and Corey's an entrepreneur and a businessman, and he also knows the WordPress community and has a pretty good track record as far as mental stuff. And lots happened to me in the last 2 weeks, and in senses and flashes of irony kept coming back and forth throughout this entire ordeal. And I want to just describe it, but I in terms of background, I'm a freelance guy. I take projects and I work them, and I talk about the membership coach program that I'm starting, and that's so that I can at least try and break away from that in terms of clients. And the clients that I have are great in terms of what they do, but they take a toll out of you because they want work from you all the time. And it's interesting because lately I've been seeing these things, and just a couple weeks ago was asked to be an affiliate for this program where it was teaching you how to be a WordPress agency. And pretty prominent guy, that we all know, pitches this program. And I started thinking about, how all of these claims of how great it is to be in WordPress. And I want to share just a bit of a story with everyone to show you that it's not all that. There are certain times I wish I did work at McDonald's so that at least I could go home and people wouldn't chase me into my house and try and ask me for a fillet of fish. And it's hard. It's a hard, hard life, and it's not all hero press and great things that go on. So in the last year, I'd say a year and a half since the last time that Jeff came out here, I kind of have struggled. Even though I live in a place that's kind of known for being rich and luxurious, I certainly am not that. Jeff, I still treated you like a freaking king when you came out here, though, buddy.
Oh, I loved every second of it. Oh, that carne asada. Oh, man.
Still, the offer still stands anytime you want it. I've had like Jeff and I, we were walking on the beach in Laguna Beach just to chill, and he's like, "How often do you come out here?" And I'm like, "Dude, it's been like years. I've been stuck in this like agent developer shift for years, and I live 5 minutes from the beach, and I don't even go there ever because I'm strapped to a computer with my curtains closed." And right after that, Jeff, I got a pretty decent gig that was kind of right by the beach, but it was full of millennials that needed too much attention, and they wondered why things went south on them when all they wanted to do was play ping pong during the day. So luckily I had some friends, people in my pocket, and one of which was just really, really getting busy with some membership work that they needed for some really high-end clients, like people in the movie The Secret, like half of them, and people on the Oprah channel and stuff. Lots of overflow stuff. And so I was brought in like the expert. There was no like, oh, it's Marcus from the company. It's just, no, hey, we brought in Marcus Couch to work with you guys and do all this stuff and get shit done. and it was great. And I was doing projects that involved call center stuff that routed through Canada and the UK, and working in Infusionsoft and doing membership projects and just really doing high-end, cutting-edge stuff. But that only lasted for like 3 months. And what goes up must come down. And since then, it's been really hard to keep all the clients and projects, and sometimes it's just building a website and then you're trying to look for more of that stuff. And I got to the point where I even had to, my Amex got shut off and it stopped paying my insurance, my health insurance. And I didn't realize it until I got the letter in the mail that said, we canceled you. We canceled you. And so I'm like, okay, well, at least I can re-enroll again and, try and make that happen. And then one of the 2 clients I had said, I can't do that kind of work with you anymore, and they cut that. And then another client I had to cut back on their stuff by like 30%. So then it's like you're making nothing, and you're working all this time. And I leaned on the network and the community. I tried to go to some of the bigger places and stuff in the WordPress community and try and leverage maybe what I knew in WordPress and all that. And none of it, it's just, I don't know if it's just kind of a trend or whatever, but it never really materialized into anything. And I've been working on this membership coach thing, and for me it was really kind of a way out of doing all this and trying to get back to things. And last week, or 2 weeks ago, I was asked to do a favor of a friend of ours who is through the church, and she's like the priest's wife, and the priest has passed away, and it's an Orthodox priest, so they can get married. And I was going to help her with her hard drive and get it out of the computer so they could destroy it and throw the computer away, all that stuff. So we got desserts at this local bakery and went and had a great time. And the next morning I got up really super early, and I was going to do a lot of membership coach stuff, and I kind of felt like I had the flu. I felt like I was just not right. And then that's when I noticed, when just going, number 2, whatever, it was full. It was completely just blood coming out. And then I had the realization that my insurance was gone. And it was like, stress, and throwing up, and oh my God, all this stuff. And I kind of wrote it out for like 3 days. And this was, by the way, Jeff, the week that you were gone. So I was kind of like, thinking I was going to make it, and everything was cool. And then I took my temperature like on day 2, and it was 104 degrees. And I was like seeing triple, and I couldn't sleep, and I couldn't eat, and I couldn't do any of these things. And then in the meantime, I'm getting all these messages from my client who just won't stop. It's like that robot in your, in a chat window that keeps hitting your browser. It's just over and over and over and over of these things, and you can't even see straight, let alone turn the computer on and do all of these things. So luckily I'm in Southern California, and there's actually a lot of immigrants here, so there's a lot of kind of free clinics that I could find, and I found on Google. And the first 2 that I tried were completely overflowing, and I couldn't get in. So I had to wait till the next day, and I went to the 3rd place, and they could take me, but they could only do so much. And I got an initial exam, and I had 102 fever, 102.9 fever. Hey, that's a radio station in Ohio, isn't it, Jeff? 102.9, the fever?
I don't know, but it sounds great.
So, as I'm waiting...
Only the hottest hits.
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to tell you about that. And so, like, as I'm waiting there, I'm looking at my phone, and I'm starting to get double vision again, and I'm going over to the water cooler, and this is like the movie scene. And I put my cup down and I flip the lever, and there's nothing. It's dry. And I go back to my seat, and all these, Mexican kids are running around speaking Spanish, laughing, all this. And it's just kind of echoing because I have this just pounding headache. And I feel like I'm going to pass out like any second. And it's just like I get a text from somebody that is my client, and he's like, I need you to do this by tomorrow, and what he's asking me to do is like a 12-hour job. And it's just, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, I got this now. I'm dealing with all this sickness, and I got this client on my own phone texting me all this stuff. And so I just, whatever, bought some time. And I loaded up Gmail. And the first thing that I get is a plugin developer sending me a scathing email from my own website's contact form because I supposedly gave them a negative review on the plugin podcast that I do. And so I want to share some quotes here. That I was already getting rich off Matt Mullenweg's back. And that I don't give a crap about developers and actual valid technologies within WordPress, and I only promote repository plugins on Wpweekly. And he closed with something that you couldn't write if this were a movie. He said, enjoy your luxury life on the beach with your fully paid automatic healthcare at the backs of independent developers.
Wow.
And the door opened up, and they called my name.
Well, this is the awkward silence.
Well, as it turns out, I had salmonella poisoning.
Oh.
And it was rough. And it was the kind of thing where, let me get a drink of water if you don't mind. I've been talking way more than I do on this show.
Well, I mean, to go back what that developer said, it sounds like they listened to the show, and many of the things that developer said are wholly inaccurate. There's a reason why we only discuss, or that you share plugins from the WordPress plugin directory on the show, and that's a requirement that I have, because that way we know for sure that they're fully licensed under the GPL. So we don't have to worry about that. With Code Canyon plugins, it's too wishy-washy trying to figure out how they're licensed. And in terms of, you're not an employee of Automatic, you're not even an employee of Audrey. You do I don't even pay you to do this show.
Can I run down the list
Go ahead.
of what I've made in WordPress so far?
Sure.
Is 2 T-shirts, one of which was from Corey, 1 hoodie from Corey, and an envelope of stickers from Corey, and and GoDaddy sent me a lightsaber, like a little light thing. That's what I've made from WordPress podcasting.
Okay, first, Marcus, GoDaddy did not send me a lightsaber. Man.
So,
I appreciate you sharing that, Marcus. It takes a ton of courage and guts to go like below the surface. I talk a lot about the iceberg of life. There's the above surface that says everything is awesome, and then there's a below surface that nobody sees. And you just shared a whole lot of under the surface stuff that I'm sure there's people listening in. I've been tweeting about it because I'm like, guys, it's getting real. You got to come here and listen, because this is going to resonate. Your story, Marcus, is going to resonate. It's resonated with me. I know it has with Jeff, and I think there's a lot of people that need to know they're not alone. And I think by sharing your story just now, a lot of people just said, gosh, I'm not alone. Maybe I don't have those specific problems, but I'm dealing with some stuff too, and I appreciate you sharing so openly and transparently.
Well, that was my intent. I don't air my laundry, but I know that if it's going on to me and if it's getting this bad for me, then it's all over. And people need to know that it's not just...
Your audio's getting choppy. You're going to have to reconnect.
I am?
Yeah, audio's just took a crap.
Hold on.
Sounds kind of funny, though.
No, that's exactly right, Marcus. There's so much that goes on in every person's life. I think the people that don't admit that, things get tough and things get hard, and you're sharing a part of the community with WordPress that, not everybody sees. But I'll tell you, the times that have been lowest for me are the times I haven't shared as openly as you just have. But it's a resonating thing, and the reason why I share my story, and I'm so glad you did yours, is because I want, the goal for me doing that is not for people to remember my name or what I do or anything like that, but is to say, like, in your heart, carve in the words, I'm not alone.
Right. Yeah.
So after does it sort of go back to, how we're, thanks to the advent of social media, that we're comparing our normals with everyone else's highlight reel? That's sort of what a lot of people are doing these days.
Well, my whole purpose for this was just I want people to know that you don't just quit your job and be a WordPress developer, agent, whatever you want to do, just because you know WordPress.
So what was the first emotion that you felt after you were done reading that email?
Oh, my heart felt like it was just, watermelon sized in my chest, and I was already almost. It felt like I was 10 seconds away from being like on the floor and having the Mexican kids huddling over me and saying stuff in Spanish
geez.
I don't understand. You know what I mean? It was horrible. It's horrible. It was wrong on every damn level, It was wrong to assume. It was wrong to have such resentment like that. Over what? Over your plugin didn't function and I talked about it on a plugin show on a review? Yet you think I'm entitled because I do other things? I'm here because of one reason. I'm always here. Consistency. That's why. And it's like, when does this community understand what the hell it's supposed to be?
Well, I guess you firsthand experienced what. Remember when we had Mika on the show and she was describing some of the things that she goes through every day with plugin authors for just trying to educate them and make their code better and make things work, and oh my goodness, the things that they say to her.
It's also the people that work with WordPress that do what I do, that service clients and do things like that. And it's like, when you're on your own, that you're on your own, and there is no paid health plan, or you got to pay out of pocket. At least where I'm at. And all of these things added up can be very dangerous. Very dangerous to your mind and to your spirit and all of that. Right, Corey?
Heck yeah. So, Marcus, so I could characterize, I heard three things, and I already, probably two things, and I go, man, if anybody could hit you at your lowest, it sounds like you were feeling the bottom, like the rocks on the bottom there.
Yeah.
As I sit problems.
As I sit in the free clinic, I get bitched at about having free automatic health care. It was like,
the client is already nagging on you about getting project work done while you're feeling probably the worst you've ever felt, and then the cherry on top was that email.
Knowing that I have to do so much client work is what, and this is like embarrassing stuff too. It's not even like cool, good WordPress stuff. It's sometimes you feel like somebody's secretary. Like, here, write me an email that does this, you know. Write you email copy? Oh, well, I need the money badly, so okay. And you kind of proselytize yourself in the process. And that's weird to say, but you're selling your brain and your time, and when you sell all your time, then you're selling out your family.
So after reading that email and a few days go by, what's going through your mind? I mean, mentally, how are you feeling? What are you really thinking about in terms of life and that situation and WordPress in general and what you do for a living?
What I do for a living is going to end. I will not be bullied. If I want to work with somebody, I'll work with somebody doing what I do. But I'm tearing myself into my project that I want to do with membership stuff and dealing with, you know, good people on the other end that just want to start something meaningful, whether that be charities or whatever on the other end. And I'll give it to you. It hasn't sold as much as I thought. It hasn't sold hardly any of what I expected. It's not even close to being anything you can live on at all. But I have to pour myself into that. So I, the other day, invested in a new kind of a membership program that's done by Luria Petrucci and David Foster. It's called Geeks University, and they teach you how to utilize live video, like Facebook Live and the new Google Connect that's coming. And I'm going to go from the guy that hides behind the microphone to the guy that's an extrovert and has tons of live video and helps people and gets people into the membership coach program where we do, you know, actual cool, legitimate, real things.
So I think hearing you, Marcus, it kind of hits me because I'm pulling back to my time when I felt the bottom, you know, and rocks, and maybe my face was getting scraped across it. And in that moment or that experience, I thought, there's things I'm never going to do again, that I'm going to change about myself and the people around me. And, you know, just hearing you talk through this is like, I think there's so many people in this community too that probably need to hear that, to say that there's a point where you're going to reach bottom and say, I won't do this. And I think that helps double down efforts into saying, number one, I'm going to have solid boundaries about my life. I know what I don't like, and that's what I don't want ever in my life. But the second is, I think, which is awesome, is, you know, if you've ever been in like a swimming pool and you go down to the bottom and you kind of feel the bottom with your feet, and you know you're at the bottom, your toes kind of push off and you kind of come back up, and there's this buoyancy, there's this lift, and that is what I'm hoping for you. And many people in this community, I think, probably have been there where they're feeling the bottom with their toes and go, man, this sucks. But I think from my experience, and I go back to 2010, where I said I won't allow these people or this set of actions or attitudes in my life again. And also using just that bile, that angst, that anger that comes out of that, and probably a part of the grieving process too, to say, this is going to be the momentum that powers me to the next level. And I won't, for me, looking back, was saying, I won't ever go back there again. And the momentum of those memories keeps me going to say, those things won't ever happen again. But also, I use that as like a fire within me to say, okay, I'm going to do this. In your case, you're going to double down on these things that you're doing that you want to be in, that fit you. That's where you want to be surrounded by the people that like appreciate, adore the things you do, the talent you offer, the skill you offer, expertise, experience, all that kind of stuff, to help them. And as our little, like, my mantra for my life is make people's lives awesome. I think this is going to be a turning point for you, that you look back, bookmark on your calendar and say, I had salmonella, I had all these things, this client was doing this, and then I got this crappy email from this person who was getting a free product that I was just merely mentioning, in a show, I'm going to use all that for fire to do the next thing and do it so good and so better for more people that love and appreciate you.
You're right. And here's what that changes for me. I've never done video anything at all. And not only am I going to kind of shed my fear of that, I'm going to get back into, speaking at WordCamps. I shouldn't say back into. I've never done it. And by the way, Jeff, I don't know if you know this. I did get approved, so I will be speaking at WordCamp Los Angeles.
Oh, nice, congratulations.
Boom.
Yeah. So that's my answer. Is I'm going to have to get more outward. Now, by the way, this client work continues. It's not like, hey, Marcus got on the podcast and talked about it, and now it's all good. Hell no. It's going to take a lot. But by me dedicating myself to saying, okay, my next chapter is going to involve a lot of video, even if that's just involving like trying to do the sales process of getting somebody in. It's going to be involving a lot of video. And so for that means I got to kind of get myself more fit too, right? I got to start exercising a little bit because shit, I'll be on video all the time. I don't want to look like some, pumpkin head in front of the screen. So that's going to get me to exercise. And I know that that's going to probably boost up my mental state a lot. But it's going to be a fight because I'm still have to do client work. I still have to develop my membership site even better and more and do all the stuff. And it's tough and it takes a mental toll.
And you and I have talked off air quite often, kind of a way for us to blow off some steam to each other on the after show. But I know that I know from our discussions we've had that you're working long hours. I've spoken with your wife, who's a lovely lady who has confirmed that you're working long hours.
And that's a big problem too. It's like doing client work for 14 hours in the day to barely make it, and then you got to do your stuff, and by the time you got time to do your stuff, it's 10:30 at night.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting to, is that you're in these doldrums of client work, and the client work is to help you get by, and then after you're done with the client work, you're already exhausted, so you're working on the membership site because you think that's your way out of doing the client work, and it's something you probably enjoy doing more often, but you're doing this grind, and you've been doing this grind now for I don't know how many years, and you're trying one thing, you're trying another path, this path, and God, that's got to be exhausting, and it sounds like you just recently reached the mental low point where it's like, man, what now? What to do?
Well, Corey said it. I found the bottom.
And the thing I wanted to ask Corey is, unfortunately, there are so many people out there, probably within and outside of the WordPress community, who maybe have a story or a situation similar to Marcus that hit rock bottom, but no matter what it is they think about or they try, they can't push their toes off the bottom to make their way up to the top, and they're stuck. So Corey, I don't know if you have any advice for listeners or somebody who may find themselves in that situation where they're trying to go back, but they just keep getting knocked back down, and they're stuck at that low point in their life, which is it's absolutely miserable for people.
So, looking back on every adversity I've faced in my life, and I for sure have not faced every single adversity. I don't have the worst stories ever, but looking back, that just builds so much. They say adversity builds character, but when I look back, those adversities were the defining moments of my life. It shaped who I am now. It shaped why I breathe and act the way I do. But specifically, I would say, I say this in a good time for me, although this year has been an interesting year. I say interesting, that's just a nice word to say. It probably hasn't felt the greatest with everything going on. Let's say not even in WordPress, but WordPress and then nationally here in the United States and on. It's felt like a weird year for me. And when I say that, it feels like fear and uncertainty. And I wrote a post about fear and uncertainty and how I approach that. But specifically, I would say that the keys for me and that I continue to cling by are my support team. And I kind of call them a life support team, because I look back 2010, which was probably my rock bottom in life, and I had good people in my life, but I wasn't sharing the stuff that Marcus has just shared. And now I know the difference in when I'm sitting there in my bedroom alone, crying, grieving a particular situation, which happened to be around my marriage crumbling and disappearing and into vapor, grieving that scenario and thinking, I just want my dad to tell me he's proud of me and he loves me, which he did. I want my mom just to tell me I was 30, somewhat mid 30s when all this happened, and thinking, I just want my mom and dad. But that support team now that I look as number one is my spouse, and Marcus, it sounds like you have an amazing wife and spouse to support
Absolutely.
you.
I don't know anybody else that would put up with all this shit.
Amen to that, brother. Amen to that.
I mean, and that's the thing. When you're tied to the computer, you're stuck. You're stuck. And that means, friends come over barely ever. When you go out, the only thing that you want to do is get back home because you got this to finish. And it's like we've become slaves to technology. It sucks, and that's just the feeling. That's just the feeling I have. I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to make a statement with that, but I'm saying when you are tied to a device that you've literally got to use to work through, then you're kind of at the mercy of what you can do with it to make X amount of money.
Yeah, my spouse now, Lindsay, my beloved partner, lover, best friend, is the most incredible support to me. There's days when, I'm feeling pretty bad, and she'll just kind of pep me up and say, there's times when she knows that for the most part for the last couple of years, our family's income has been from me as we've had kids. You know how that goes, Marcus. And
Corey, I'm the only income in our household. So if a client cancels, that means like our lifestyle changes today. It's not like your job, I get unemployment, I get all this stuff. As a business owner, you get nothing.
But isn't it reassuring when your spouse or significant other amidst this,
yeah, with all that risk and all that heartbreak, absolutely,
grabs your hand and says, I support you, we got this together. And, that's why I continue to preach as best as I can and forcefully that your spouse is your number one partner. I mean, I just know the difference in how Lindsay has make the potential of my life has been exponentially expanded because she loves and supports me no matter what.
Yeah.
So, support team is spouse, and then I said in the pre-show or in the intro here that sidekicks are important because my sidekick at iThemes, Matt Danner, my COO, man, for the last 6 years, that dude has walked side by side with me through divorce, through hardship, through all kinds of ups and downs, and to have a sidekick to just say, and I think, like I said in the intro, you guys are sidekicks to each other. Jeff, your sidekick is Sarah, and her sidekick is you. You guys fighting the good fight together. That's so incredible to have a sidekick. And then I talk about a professional counselor. I put on my calendar, I preach this as much as I can, like a broken record, 4 times a year. Put on my calendar to go talk to Kyle, my licensed professional therapist, and just to say, hey, I want to check up. Gives me perspective and outlook, and just an objective person. I don't have to have Thanksgiving dinner with and pass the cranberries. Like-minded people or entrepreneurs in your case is, that's why I'm thrilled that you're going to get back into the WordCamps and speaking specifically, is because I think there's an amazing group in WordPress. I love this industry. I love this software. I love this community, and that's the key word there, community. The people that are spout bile and poison aren't part of this community truly. They're just vampires. They don't belong in the community. But there's a group of people in this community that are like-minded, get your hardship, want to share their hardship with you so they can empathize and understand they're not walking alone in this. I think that like-minded entrepreneurs or like-minded, quote, community people are there in WordPress. I know so many of them. It makes me proud to be a part of this community. the people that are part of the poison in the bile, the vampires, the trolls, don't belong here, and they'll quickly self-select themselves out of the community because they don't get it. And I'm trying to think. The last one would be a mentor. Having someone that can kind of say, like you're saying, you're going to have to do things that are going to stretch yourself and do more. And mine was a guy named Michael Smith here in Oklahoma City. Been there, done that, done more. I want to be like Smitty. He's an amazing man. Smitty's his nickname, but he's an amazing man. He's about 20 years older than me. I love him, look up to him. That sport team has been incredible for me, and the reason why, and by the way, the reason why I say this to people isn't necessarily to help you, Marcus, no offense. It's to remind myself when the hard times, when I feel the bottom again in my life, that I need to reach for these key people to walk with, to go forward together.
Agreed.
There you go. When I get in the doldrums, me and my wife just jam out to Bon Jovi's "Living on a Prayer." That's what we do because we're like that.
Sometimes I think Marcus just talking it out is therapy in itself.
I agree.
Yeah, well, good thing it's just us two, right?
Messed up again.
Hold on. I had the greatest story ever, too.
Well, you have to. We'll be right back after these messages with Marcus's story, but
No, I'm so glad he's open and transparent. I think we need more of this, not only in the WordPress community, but as human beings, Jeff. Don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, as far as your support team, I have a handful of people on my list of where when I need to vent or I feel like crap or I just need to get something off my chest, I just need to say it. I need to type it. I need to tell someone anything, and I won't get in trouble for it. I got a couple people on my, probably less than half a dozen people I go to, and I feel so much better afterwards because it usually avoids me getting into a situation that I might regret later.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I forgot.
And the thing is, and one of the reasons why it's awesome to have a support team like that, and I think if you're going to have a support team, it would be cool if someone on your support team was like a physical person, like you go somewhere and talk to them, because so many people in the WordPress community, and it's not just it's tech in general, online tech, or anyone who works from home, remote workers, we deal with isolation all the time, especially if you're a consultant and you just do client work, or you work for an agency remotely from some part of the world. Some people love isolation, but I think isolation over time, well, it could really do a number on your psyche.
Not to mention what your neighbors think of you. I can't even imagine. Like, I don't even, because I have the curtains shut all the time because it puts a glare on my screens if I open it up and there's sunlight. I don't know. They probably think, what the hell is this guy doing? He never leaves.
So I know one thing Corey's been doing, we call him a mental health advocate, and he's made some fantastic presentations at various work camps across the globe. In fact, you can catch them on WordPress.tv. And as far as this year is concerned, Corey, do you have anything planned, or have you done anything specific that people can look up in terms of mental health sessions at work camps?
Yeah, absolutely. Last weekend I was at WordCamp Toronto talking about managing the highs and lows in business, and I really honestly focused on the lows because, just like Marcus was sharing, Jeff, I know you've dealt with your share of issues too.
I might. By the way, a little bit later, I might talk about one of my lows.
Do it.
It's just it's a teaser.
This is called the Getting the Really Real podcast right here. Episode.
Yeah. Good thing it's just us three and nobody else can hear us.
Yeah, we're just having. Oh, is this? Yeah, this is just us, right?
Oh, did we go live yet?
It's just us and the internet. Don't worry.
So I've done a talk around like the iceberg, above the surface, success and sunshine, below the surface, suffering and struggles. And but I built a website specifically for this. And I've been working on it this week actually, so this is very timely. And Marcus, you must have been reading my email or something. But talking about how like I try to work through in the last couple of years my below the surface stuff that's going on. I'm hoping to get that out here pretty soon. But the site I put basically the slides about the iceberg is iceberg.life. And that's really what I've been working on, because I tell you, probably the most impactful thing, and I feel like I've done a lot of good stuff in my life, and particularly the last 9-10 years here. But probably the most impactful thing I've ever done is to share my story about my own struggles, just like Marcus was doing. And so I've been kind of on this like mission to just keep it up. You know, my dying breath, the last day of my life, I hope I can say I did something that helped someone else, even if they never remember my name. They remember the stories that said I'm not alone, and can push forward and do well.
And that's something I was going to ask you after your presentation at WordCamp Toronto. Did anybody come up to you and say, hey, boy, that really resonated with me, and I'm going through the same things that you are?
Every single time that I've shared my story, two themes seem to come out as the biggest, takeaways that people say, thank you for doing that, and they share, and it's about depression, and then it's about divorce. Those two particular things. Probably the third is to say, thanks for sharing your story, I'm going through my own stuff. But depression and divorce seem to be like resonating themes about my particular story that people really cling to, because it's like, Marcus, if you hadn't shared this today, I can't check up on you. I can't DM you in next week and go, how are things going, right? But you
Right.
made the bold step of doing that, and if that goes unchecked, I'm not a professionally licensed or trained counselor. However, I feel like if things go left unchecked and you don't let these things out, just talking it out, like you said, Marcus, is therapy, that at some point that's going to put you in a very dark place, and you're going to linger there, and that's dangerous.
Yeah, you're right, and it's tough to be it's weird too to be a podcaster and be in this situation, because it's like and a volunteer podcaster nonetheless, yet one that everybody thinks because I'm a podcaster, I'm also always out of their price range in terms of any project that comes, so nothing ever comes. And that's weird. And then to get criticized by people in the community while still having to bust my tail with working regular clients like everybody else on the street does. Do you want to know why this podcast works so well in terms of Jeff and I being sidekicks? Is because Jeff cares about the community and the internal workings of it, and has some insight, somewhat, in terms of friends in his network that he can work extra information and make unbelievable pieces of content on WP Tavern. Right?
Corey Miller.
That's what you do, Jeff. And I'm just saying, there's no script. It's off my head. That's what you do. What I do is I'm working the streets in terms of what the hell is working out there. What am I using for clients? What are clients paying for that works? What kind of huge problems am I having in terms of technological stuff getting done? I'll tell you this, I'm struggling like hell, but the projects I'm doing are unbelievable, and I don't get paid 1/10 of what I should for it, but it's good, and it's what's brought me the gift of the membership coach site, because I never had to pay to learn any of it.
Well, it was all direct benefit from all your client projects.
Yeah.
So we totally, it's been 10 years since I've done freelance work. I should say probably around 9 to 10 years ago. However, so last week we did a survey into our iThemes community, and we said, what are the biggest struggles you have as an entrepreneur? And a lot of our community, a big part of our community, are exactly in your spot, Marcus. I mean, you're doing some incredible work for great clients and everything, or maybe bad clients. However, some of the resonating things that I wanted to mention. I went down a list of things I've experienced as an entrepreneur for the last 10 plus years or whatever, and you said one in here that kind of resonates with the freelance and a lot of WordPress community members, which is like this lack of I think Jeff said this, is lack of it's loneliness, it's lack of friends, it's like
isolation.
Isolation, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the things on this list that people self-selected, 50% of people that selected this, and there was, I think, probably about 300 people that actually did the survey, 50% of people said worry, doubt, and fear. And the biggest percentage was financial problems. So I'm sure as part of your story, Marcus, obviously financial problems is part of that because this client pulls out, all this stuff happens, and then that produces worry, doubt, and fear. And then add to the fact that another set of people just like you and all of us have experienced in WordPress at one time or another, or technology, is that isolation factor. So you're not alone in that, but these things, the story that you're sharing, Marcus, I think, again, I just continue to say this, should resonate with a lot of people if they're fully honest in WordPress.
I would hope so, and that's why I wanted to bring it to light, because it's dark, and it needs something. It needs a little bit more exposure in what it is as an object or whatever. We all need to look at it and realize that there's a piece of what just happened to me in a lot of what happens in this community, and that's it. So as far as like me, I'm still fighting the fight, doing the struggle. I reinvested a little bit in myself to try and make myself grow as I'm opening something else up that's trying to help other people grow. And all that at the same time is a bitch to try and do. But I have no choice. I got to do it. I have to move forward. I have to do the lifestyle that I want to lead by, opening my own membership site and doing those kinds of things. And I can't even imagine what's going to happen once I start getting involved in more Facebook Live events and the new YouTube Connect thing and all that. And I'm going to learn from pros that know the right gear and know the right things to use and the right boxes to use and all that. And I can't wait to present in a whole new way. Because believe it or not, when I was just a teenager, I used to present software in college auditoriums in front of hundreds of people. When I was 14 years old, I couldn't even drive. I had to have people give me a ride. So, the plug-in picks that I do, I've been doing that since I was 14, and I'm going to be able to do that again. And that's what excites me about this, and that's the weird thing that happened while I was sick, is that I just kind of found this thing and realized exactly what it was and what it could do for me, and I invested in myself. And it's hard to do that when you're already broke and you're already struggling. But that's what I got to do, and hopefully other people out there will do the same.
So, Dr. Miller, are you ready for the next client?
Chris Lemma trying to get in here?
No, no. So I just wanted to. I want to shift focuses a little bit back to. It's going to be a little more WordPressy up in here.
Okay.
So, let's see. This kind of give our listeners a little insight into my day job, which happens to be writing about WordPress, and I guess you can call me a journalist, even though I don't like that term, but I guess that's what I do. I kind of liken myself to a WordPress archivist because I feel like with the tavern, with each post, I'm sort of archiving bits and pieces of WordPress history that are being written and rewritten.
Can I title you?
Well, I guess.
You are a WordPress community analyst.
Well, okay. I guess I could work with that.
All right.
That seems professional. So, there's Headway Themes. It's one of the companies that was founded by Clay Griffiths and Grant Griffiths out of Kansas back in 2009. In fact, it was one of the companies at the time like I think it was, I believe, Studio Press, iThemes, some of the companies, Themes, I think, was even around at that time or got started. Was one of the companies that pioneered the commercial theme market for WordPress, and they've been around ever since. And they have a nice. It's not a page builder; it's more of a layout type theme builder. Allows you to do all kinds of great stuff for the entire website, not just for pages. Well, they've been doing business for quite a few years, and some of our readers recently got in touch with us wanting to know what was going on at the company. Apparently, there's been a lack of communication, and customers were sort of out of the loop in terms of what was going on. So I said, maybe I'll take a look into this. So I started doing some digging, and the more I dug, the worse it looked, and got involved with some people that have close ties to the company and talked to them for a while, and they told me some stuff that was supposed to be off the record, and I pretty much, anyone that talks to me, the first thing out of their mouth is off the record. So I'm used to that. And I ended up talking to a couple different sources about what was going on at the company, and all of them as individuals did not want to be identified who they were. They said this stuff's off the record unless somebody else agrees that as a group we could share this information. So I ended up writing this post sort of cataloging all the stuff that's gone on in the public eye in terms of what's going on with Headway Themes. And right now, a lot of people just don't know what's going on, and there hasn't been any new posts on the blog. Some independent contractors that helped with support are no longer at Headway Themes. There's some support issues going on there, and then nobody really knows what the future of the product is, even though today, by the way, Clay pushed out 4.0.7, which actually has quite a few bug fixes in the release. So if you're a customer of Headway Themes, you should definitely check out that release. It might address one or more issues you may be having with the software. But I ended up, this whole journalist thing, I wrote the story, and there were some things that came up about some signs of financial trouble, and I thought that, as long as a group of people, and Corey, you can correct me on this because you sort of have a journalist background, but I figured if I could, okay, this individual says off the record, so I can't write anything about it. Okay, I respect that. So I'm going to go to a couple other different people to see what they have to say, and I ended up with four or five different people who all told me the same thing. So I thought it was okay that, okay, this is information that's important to the story. It has to be told. They don't want it to be said individually, but they've all told me the same thing, so I could say, hey, according to multiple sources close to the company, this is what's going on, and therefore it'll allow them to keep their anonymity, and things will be okay. But apparently I found out from some of my sources that's not the way it works. They were pretty upset with me. And once I published this, I thought I was doing a good job here. I really dove deep. I worked really hard on this post, really trying to find out what the story is. And then I published that, and then they have sources come back to me and say, "Why did you publish this? We told you not to do that." Every time something like this happens on the tavern, I feel like a 25-pound bag of bullcrap. I don't feel very good. I get depressed. And it's like, man, I don't want to screw anybody here. I made a mistake, but it's like magnified 100 times now because of the magnitude of what WB Tavern is, and it always reminds me. It always makes me think, boy, maybe I should not do this. Maybe I should get out of this and go to something a little less stressful, so I don't have to deal with this. But Corey, man, being a journalist, sometimes it really sucks, especially when you make a mistake like that.
Yeah, and Jeff, I wouldn't say you necessarily made a mistake, and I don't know all the details and background, but you've got a tough job, and I told you that. You covered a couple of hard points in our life at iThemes. You know this, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah.
And the thing to me is that, are you fair to us? And that doesn't mean you might not have your own bias. We all have our own bias, right? I mean, biases or whatever. But are you fair? Are you trying to do right? And, I liken this, Jeff, to when we have to let someone go, a part of the team. It sucks. It just totally sucks. And I'm going to give you a parallel here that comes back to you. But when we have to let someone go, it is the worst part of my job. I hate those times. It means I have somehow made a mistake at part of the process. I take personal blame for that too, just like you do about if you feel a story wasn't whatever, you feel like you didn't do right or whatever that was. Somehow somebody questions your judgment or what you did. But for the point when we have to tell someone, like, you cannot be a part of this team, and we sever the financial stuff, that should sever the team relationships that are there, and that has repercussions for those particular people. The one thing over the last 8.5 years I've been doing this is that at night, the judgment for me, the point for me that I feel good or at least okay about what I do is that did I do the right thing by my values for that person? And not to get into the details of this particular story, but to say, at the end of the day, did you feel you did what was right and appropriate? Were you fair? And in my experience with you,
I wholeheartedly think I was with this story.
And there it is. By your values, you deem that to be fair. And so, the hardest thing we do, and I'm trying to equate this back to what you do, but the hardest thing I do in my job is to have to let somebody go. But at night, I sleep well. And here's why. Because I did the right, every single time I've tried to do the right thing by people. Now, the other party may not think I did right or I was fair or whatever, but as long as that aligns with my particular values, at night, that I try to do well by people, that we paid more money in particular instances in those examples that we probably had to, just to make sure that I did the right thing by myself, so that when I lay my head on my pillow at night, I can know I did right by people. First and foremost, I had to make tough decisions that sucked. Now, equating that back to you is, as long as by your values, and as a former journalist, I would say this too, is like being fair, working your butt off to be accurate about the truth as best you can, knowing that in any story, I'm not talking about this story, every single story, including ours, you've got to dig for things that people don't always want to share. As long as you can say to yourself that at the end of the night, you did what was right and fair, then you should lay your head tonight down and sleep well, knowing that you did the job you're tasked with to do in a fair manner. And you've covered a significantly terrible, hard points in my personal life and our business history, being the security breach that happened a couple of years ago, and in probably the second year of our whole history of our company, saying as iTheme's even around. And in every instance I said I felt like you approached that fairly, not with an agenda. You may have had your biases, but I never thought that you treated us unfairly. And I think that's the standard by which journalists, as yourself, and you are a journalist, by the way, Jeff, but also anybody else that tries to report anything like news, is to say, let me present the facts fairly as I can, as accurately as I can, and at the end of the night say, I did the job I was tasked to do.
One of the hardest things about my job, or that's turned into one of the hardest things, maybe it shouldn't be hard, I don't know, but 7 years into writing about WordPress news, I've been able to establish relationships with so many people who make a living in WordPress or that are business owners. And sometimes very bad negative crap happens, like what happened to iThemes with the passwords in plain text situation. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I'm a big fan of Corey's. I like his company. I like the guy. We have a good relationship. But it's my job to report on this, even though it could have, because of the publication, it could have some serious negative impacts on your bottom line. It could have impacts on your family, and it could sever some of those relationships that I've been able to establish with you over the years via talking at WordCamps, meeting up, hanging out. And it's hard to put that stuff aside and know that, hey, if I publish this, there could be some ties severed here, but at the end of the day, one thing that Sarah has really instilled in me is that with the tavern, it's the readers first. We got to tell the readers what's happening. We got to be honest with it. We got to do the best fact checking we can. Present the facts as they are, and try to eliminate bias if you can, and then let the readers take all that in, and the whole story doesn't have to be told all in one post. I mean, it's rare that ever happens. There's ebbs and flows, and we just have to make sure not to concentrate on one thing versus the other. And to take it back and relate Headway and what's going on with Headway Themes is the whole issue comes back to the company has had a lack of communication. And when you have a lack of communication, from my experience of writing about companies in the WordPress space that have a lack of communication, it leads to speculation. And speculation among customers, among the public, among news outlets, wondering what's going on. It could be this, it could be that. Usually it generates a big mess that could have all been solved if you just tell people what's going on. And to go back to iThemes, and I reference this all the time, it's like a key moment for me, is immediately after the iThemes plain text situation, you were right on top of it. You communicated to the public and to your customers what happened, what you're doing to mitigate the issue, and you kept them involved in the process. And I think all businesses have about a bajillion means necessary to keep their customers informed. Why don't they do that? I mean, if a company like Headway Themes had published something within the last 2 weeks about, hey, this is what we're working on, this is what we're doing, okay, we know that you're raising these kind of concerns, we're looking into them, we'll give you a further update within 2 or 3 weeks. Now, sure, hey, you're busy, we get that, you're running a business, it's two people, it's a father-son relationship, okay, but when you go 3 or 4 weeks without telling anybody what's going on, or nobody has a clue and everyone's guessing, this is what happens, and I end up writing the post trying to inform people what's going on based on the knowledge that's out there, and even some of the stuff that's from sources behind the scenes that I feel like I had the ability to publish. Maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. I'm going to look into that. But if a post would have been published, communicated by the company, mine doesn't exist, and I prefer it that way. I prefer linking and talking about things in a post published by a company that's public versus doing all this stuff behind the scenes, because it's too easy to screw something up. And when I screw something up, man, I beat myself to hell and back because of it.
Forget that, man.
So that's I wanted to throw all that on Dr. Miller.
Okay. Dr. Marcus is going to step in here and
do it, Doc.
Give you the intern treatment. First off, as far as sources and them going, why did you publish it? Because I'm Jeff Chandler, that's why. Because that's what I do, okay? I'm a shark. I got to keep swimming. I got to keep eating. So don't even think about that or twist yourself up. If somebody tells you something, it can go on the tavern. I'm sorry. That's the way it is. At your discretion. At your discretion.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuances involved with that.
Who cares? You're fair. You're accurate, as close as you can get to the information that you have, just as Corey described you. And second, what seems to be lost here is that there are, how many people that have paid for this and use this and also have client sites that run on this. And when that goes away, man, there's pissed off clients. There's people that don't like it when it doesn't work with 4.6 coming up or any of those things, or I don't know. I don't think it's unfair. I think everything's fair game in terms of what we're doing. It's a livelihood for people, and as if we haven't gone through that already through this show, geez. So people depend on your news to give them that advantage in the marketplace. If they know Headway's going to, fold, and I'm not saying that, but I'm just, then you have to have an alternative, and you have to research that and figure out what that is and present that to your potential or existing or recurring client. Solutions have to exist because on the other side of that is an actual business that makes money for somebody, whoever you're doing the site for, or managing their programs, or any of that. So it's relevant. It's completely relevant.
Well, I know I've met Grant and Clay a couple of times over the years. They're good people. I've talked to them about a number of different things in the WordPress landscape, especially as it relates to GPL and WordPress themes. And I get that 7 out of Clay's 23 years of life so far has been dedicated and devoted to Headway, this product, in this business. And I hesitate kind of bringing this up with Corey on the show because I understand that Corey, in the same type of business and launching around the same time, Corey, you probably have a deeper or closer relationship than most with the two gentlemen that run Headway Themes. And from your experience of the communication realm and this cycle of keeping customers in the loop, what advice, if you had the opportunity to talk to them right now or give them advice, what would it be?
Yeah, and Grant and Clay are dear friends. They had things that particularly came up, weren't able to be in Oklahoma City with us a couple weekends ago. They were surely invited because they have, we go way back, 2009, I think, WordCamp Dallas, when Christian came up to me and said, there's this kid in the Happiness Bar, and it was called the Genius Bar at the time, by the way, that said it's doing some cool stuff that's just blowing my mind. And I was like, Christian is the smartest dude I've ever met in my life, and I got to go meet whoever this is, and I met Grant and Clay then. So we have a long, abiding friendship that endures, and I talk to them privately all the time. I won't ever share details about those conversations.
Right, understand.
As a part of, from just speaking from my experiences with the two scenarios we talked about previously, is my background in communications tells me that you always disclose openly and transparently as you're able to what's going on, and people respond to that every single time. Just like you said, when we push publish on the email. By the way, Jeff, you weren't able to be in our office, in my office, and me to show you this, but I have a picture hanging in my office that is the moment before I push publish on the blog post to announce to the world essentially that whole issue had happened.
Wow.
And our support lead, Ronald Van Weerd in the Netherlands, was in the room with us in our hotel room. We were sequestered up there dealing with the issue. He snapped the photo unbeknownst to Matt Danner, my sidekick, my COO, and I, right before we did that. It was the right thing to do.
What was the expression? Because we're in audio. So can you describe
I'm gonna find the picture for you, but we had our back turns. We're looking at over one of the canals in Amsterdam. We happened to be in Europe at this time, totally isolated from our team back home here in the States. The bulk of our team was here, right? And so we had our back turned and had my laptop up, getting ready to push publish on the blog post. So we back turns kind of together. The reason why, and I sent that photo back to our team, and our assistant Patty was amazing. I said, I would like this picture. When I found, we didn't know about the picture, by the way, until 2 days later, and I saw it and I said, this is going to be a defining moment in my life, because I was next to my best friend doing the hardest thing I've ever done, perhaps one of the hardest things I've done in my life, especially in my business career, with my best friend, with the team that I love and care about, would walk through the ends of the earth with. And I said, I want that hanging in my office, please, when I get back home. I tell that story every time somebody comes in my office because it was a defining moment for us. We didn't know how that week would go, by the way. We didn't know how the next month would go, or the next 6 months or 12 months. But I knew one thing was for sure, is that we would be together in this, and that we were doing the right thing. Again, I went to sleep that night knowing we had done the right thing. Whatever the hate, bile, poison, justified or not, would happen, it would happen. But I did what I could do, what was right. Every single time, additionally, I have spoken transparently about just the feelings I have, the life I've experienced, whatever the moment is for me. It resonates with people because it's called being human. when you're able to say, just like you did, Marcus, in the pre.
I wish I could retweet that sentence like 100 times. Put it on the walls of every WordPress office isolation chamber across the world, because that's it in a nutshell.
It was the worst of times, and it was the best of times. That's truly the statement there, because when you're going through stuff, and at least whatever happens to crumble around us, at least we got each other, hanging on to each other, and you know, I hope Matt walks into my office and feels special, like I'm feeling goosebumps right now, because it sucked to be able to have to disclose these things, but we transparently communicated as best we could to our community about what happened. Now.
And I think you were rewarded for that.
Absolutely, Jeff. I'll tell you 1,000 times over, we were rewarded for that, and that's why I've continued to be open and vulnerable about everything in my personal life and as best we can in our business. Now, when Delta Airlines shares and Southwest a couple of weeks ago shares that they had a quote power outage about their things, I think to myself, they don't know transparency truly. Now, that's at these huge multi-billion-dollar corporations, but as humans, if we can just be vulnerable and open to each other, I think that has magnificent, exponential opportunities for people to say, I relate, I'm not alone, and thank you for doing that, by the way, because you didn't, maybe you didn't want to do that, right? But somewhere in your value systems, you had to do it. And so open communication has always been a part of that. And it always frustrates me when big corporations, and I get it, they've got stockholders and all this kind of stuff, that they can't openly and share what actually has happened. You know, I remember about 10 years ago, DreamHost put a post, and it's still on their website, I think. And it was basically like, we had this big mess up. And they actually, in the blog post, this is crazy, I'm going to find this blog post and put it in the show notes for you guys. They actually had a picture of the Hindenburg, the big German big balloon that crashed.
Blimp,
you guys
yeah.
Yeah,
the big blimp that went in flames.
Oh, the horror! That's where that came from.
They basically
the humanity, wasn't it? What was it? I forgot the quote.
They actually posted a photo of that blimp going down and said, here's what happened, whatever the issue was. Now, that was 10 years ago at least, that I can recall. And my organization before iThemes happened to be on their site, and our email was down, and all this kind of stuff was down, and I was pretty mad. Now, they got credibility from me because they shared openly and honestly. Now, I probably didn't want the picture of the Hindenburg to that email, but they at least disclosed, you know, what actually had happened versus a quote power outage. Say you have legacy software, say you've a mountain of debt because you're in this technical debt because you're in this industry, and I'm talking about the airline industry that has minuscule profit lines and has to fight every day, and you know, events happen that disrupt their entire industry, and I get all that. But just say we have technical debt, it crashed our servers, whatever happened to happen, and I'm just speculating, by the way, just say it. Then when I'm in Toronto and my flight to the flight that gets me to my two babies at home that I haven't seen for 4 days is potentially delayed, at least be honest with me, be human with me, that the reason why is this and not a BS press release quote blurb about what actually happened. Okay, I'm ranting now.
Very well said. I mean, as someone who writes about the WordPress news all the time, I would, it always pleases me to go to a company's website, like let's say the iThemes blog, because you guys just released a product, or you guys are experiencing issues that maybe some of our readers have let us know about it, but there's the post, and I can reference that. And one of the best things about publishing on your own site or your own social media is that you, as the owner or whoever's in charge of the business, you get to control, for the most part, the conversation, the things that you want people to know, that you want to have spread out on various news agencies. And that way, and the customers should be able to get that news from the business or the company itself first, rather than a website like WP Tavern. That's my feeling.
Completely. Even in their own internal forums, or they should just send out an email blast at least once a month of what the hell's going on.
Yeah, and you know, very honestly, Jeff, you're right on. Is that I get to control the story, or at least lead the story, if I'm open and honest. Now, that's not the first primary reason why we did those things, but the secondary reason is absolutely, I'd rather me tell the story openly, be able to get in front of it than behind it, and that's just a part of crisis communications too, by the way. Now that is formulated back in my background with newspapers and communications PR work. However, I see a lot of organizations from government to Fortune 500 companies just not understanding the fact that if you're just open and honest with people and you say we're humans, we messed up.
I did not hear that.
My audio bleeped out. Sorry.
Yeah.
But we messed up, then
Or sometimes say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, every now and then, coming across like that is beneficial because, wow, look, a human. There's actually humans behind the service who think like us or who react like us to these situations like this. Who, yeah, I mean, they know and understand it sucks, but hey, we're doing everything we can to make it better. And by the way, we're going to lead you. We're going to try and inform you every step of the way until we get back to normal. That's a company I like. In most cases, knowing is better than not knowing because not knowing just makes you think the worst of the worst is probably happening, and that's not good.
Back to 2009, Jeff, when you wrote the post, is iThemes still going? This is 2009, and now it's back in 2009. Today it's 2016, right? And we responded to that in force, and we started our iThemes TV live streaming show on Tuesdays at that time because of that. I wanted people to know we're real humans working our butts off here, and it was an opportunity for me to shape the story and tell the story accurately, honestly, transparently, to say, guys, we're working our butts off here, and I don't know why people are thinking that, but I want to at least have the opportunity to respond and try to respond in a human fashion,
And can you remember what the response was like when you launched that and people could actually see and hear from you guys that are the people who are behind iThemes?
We did the show for almost 3 straight years, Jeff, after that post you did, and I still have people that I meet at work camps or whatever that say to me, I remember going back listening to your show. Now, I felt we were sort of a pioneer in that day because we were actually using Ustream at the time.
I remember Ustream.
we were streaming from Marcus, you'll enjoy this. We were streaming from...
I watched it. What are you talking about?
See, there you go. And we were streaming from a futon. Like, we covered it in some stuff so it didn't look just like a futon. And then we got these lights and stuff. But at first, I think it was just from a laptop. And then we got a little bit, just a tad more professional with actual lights to make it look nice. But, people still remember those things. And you bet you guys both, having been long-time community members, remember those things. And I think that endears people to you. And I tell you what, every single day of my life, you bet your butt I want people to like me. And I want people to trust me because I do the right thing. And I fundamentally believe as a business principle that when people like and trust you and do these things, that you endear people to you. Just like Jeff, so you've written at least 2 posts about that were heartaches for me, that were hurtful times in my particular life, in our business life. However, 2 weeks ago, I invited you into my home in Oklahoma City so we can look up at the stars, drink a little beer, and have some really good barbecue.
I tell you, I was scratching my head when I got the invite. No, I'm just kidding.
BS. But I expect you to do your job. You have a hard job that needs to be done in WordPress, and you did the job you're supposed to do with our stories, with other stories. At the end of the day, you did your best, and I know the intent that you did them with. And at the end of the day, you should sleep well at night. You should feel good. I'm going to keep inviting you into our home as the occasion presents itself. And then when I'm in Ohio, we're going to, have drinks at the Hampton Inn Bar. That's another story.
We'll go do the nightcap at the Tenderloin Room. Had to throw that in there. And that's also a behind-the-scenes story. So let me tell you, You're the guy, Dr. Miller, and I appreciated you having me on the show. I feel a hell of a lot better right now.
Me
I feel
too.
like sort of a weight's been lifted off my chest, and
I
I think it was
and
just kind of nice for all three of us to get together and just start flinging bullcrap off of us to somewhere else.
Well, I want to expand on that because Corey, you know, I when you bring up that live show, I remembered that, but I had forgot it. You know what I mean? I forgot about it, and and that's how I recognized you when I saw you at WordCamp last year because I remember you from that, and that's interesting because that's like the road that's the little path I'm just about to jump on. Is letting people get to know who I am and what I do and how I can help them, just like what you did. But I'm going to do it to, what if I become the greatest live caster ever, you know, in terms of starting a membership cycle from using live video as your webinar with Hangouts and cool stuff, and how do you present it differently? That's all the stuff I can't wait to learn and implement. And you never know when that pivot's going to come.
Okay, so you guys didn't ask for this, but you're going to get it anyway. You invite me on the show at late at night, and I'm going to give it anyway. So, Marcus, here's my admonition to you.
Yeah.
You need to take a moment, and the moment is defined by you, but however long that is. Now, if it stretches months, I'm going to come over to LA and kick your butt. However, you need to take a moment of time, a season of time, and feel the bottom.
Yeah.
Feel the rough. Feel the blood that comes from scraping your face and your feet and your hands at the bottom of where you're at. And just take a season of time and make sure you experience that for just a second. Don't wallow in it and don't be drowned by it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then you need to put your feet to the bottom of that and kick yourself up, and you're going to do that. But you're going to use this as a defining experience in your life. You should say August 2016, you and your wife, every year, put it on your calendar, raise a toast to it, and say, remember when all of these things happened, and that was a defining moment in my life, and you're going to push up from the floor soon after this season, short, very, very short season of time where you wallow in it a little bit, feel it on your face like you have today, feel it in your heart, and then you're going to move on from it and be so much better for it. You're going to make people's lives awesome as a part of this experience, but you're going to move on from this, and you're going to use this experience as a turning point in your life that you'll never, ever forget, I promise you, that says, this is the step I had to go through. These are the times I had to have salmonella poisoning, I have to have this client crap happen, all this stuff in order to push me, propel me to the next stage of my life and my business. And I want you to celebrate August 2016 from now on as that point that you needed. These events had to conspire to push you to get there, okay? That's my admonition to you.
I thank you for that. Wow, that's amazing.
Can I get one?
I am going to definitely do that, and feel around the bottom. I don't know what we're going to use for a show title, but damn, that's pretty good.
and use this as fire, stoking the fire to do all the things you need to do to stretch and go outside of yourself, all the things you said previously that you have to do that you don't know and you're scared of now, and you need to push off and use this experience to motivate you, to inspire you, to propel you to that next stage. And we're gonna put it on the calendar. Maybe we just talk, we do a podcast, whatever it is, but a year from now, and see what you've done as a result of this experience in August 2016.
Thank you, and I'm thankful that you're going to hold me accountable to it too.
I'll put it on my calendar, okay, for 2017.
All right.
All right, Jeff.
All right, I'm ready.
I want you to reiterate the values you believe about what you do. And I don't want to hear again from you until you strongly, and maybe even your wife has to reiterate it to me, that you need to be in some other job, position, place in your life. Tell me that this isn't the thing that you were called to do, that you're in the right moment and place and time with the time and talent that you have, experience, that you have in WordPress to be here. And if you doubt it again, I'm going to have to make the trip to Ohio and kick your butt.
Please don't.
You continue to doubt yourself, and I wish you wouldn't. I know you. We've known each other for 8 years now. You do the right thing. You've been fair to me. I believe you've been fair to other people. No matter what stories have been there, you always have a heart. Now, when the moment when you lose heart about what you're doing, then I'm going to tell you need to move on. But I don't believe you've lost your heart. Do right, and tonight, when you lay your head down on your pillow next to your beautiful, amazing wife.
She's at work.
Well, when she gets home, then I want you to close your eyes and feel that you've done the job you're tasked with the right principles that make you great. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow, whatever time you start your business, you're going to shed any negative BS, and you're just going to continue doing the work at wptavern.com that you're tasked to do, that you're called to do.
It's I'm going to let that soak in, but I'm glad that one of the things I'm happy for you to say and for me to hear is something that you realize that I did, and then maybe it's because of our 7 or 8 year relationship, or you've known me for that long, but for you to say that I have a heart and I'm always trying to do the right thing. That's the way I was brought up, and when I screw up, and I know this sort of affects people, I am my own worst critic. I beat myself up, and sometimes I beat myself up a lot more than I should. But I guess I gotta try and avoid doing that. But I'm just glad you recognize the fact that I'm always trying to do the right thing. I'm not out to screw anybody. I just wanna do what I think is right.
Critics have nothing to show at the end of their life but bile and poison that's vapor. Doers, creators, people that launch and publish, people that take a step into the world boldly doing what they've been called to do with their time, talent, and treasure are the ones that I want to spend around like a campfire and to tell the stories of. No one will remember the critics. They're vapor, they're trolls. Sadly, they've got a terrible calling in life, but those that step out boldly into the light to share of themselves, to do right by their principles and values, are the ones that I want to celebrate with and tell stories around that campfire in later life. And Jeff, my friend, you're a part of the doers. You're going to make mistakes just like me and Marcus do, and everybody listening. But the difference is, you don't wallow in them, you use them to improve your craft. And this is a craft, sir. This is a craft. You'll use this experience to get better, just like you're asking questions, and you know my number, you know how to get a hold of me anytime you want to have this conversation. But just boldly go, be you, do you, buy you.
Holy smokes, man. Marcus, how much do you think, if Corey was billing us, how much do you think all this would cost us?
I don't know. I don't have health insurance. I can't afford it.
Oh, yeah. Well,
come to the free clinic, Corey?
Man, Corey's generous.
Yeah.
He's one of the most generous people I know.
You know what's weird is, like, I didn't even think of having Corey on the show until only like 7-8 hours ago, I think. And I just said to Corey, I'm like, hey, is there any chance in hell that you could come on? Because me and Jeff, I didn't even know Jeff had stuff. I didn't know. So for me, it was like for my bags, and I vaguely told you anything at all about specifics of what I wanted to talk about. So I think this is an awesome show. I think I pray that someone sees somewhat of themselves in the stories that we're telling and takes Corey's advice to heart.
Well, with all that said, man, I feel better, you feel better, and this has turned into quite the long show, but I think it was necessary. But so, what do you say we wrap it up with?
No, forget it.
All right. Wow. Okay.
I'm not gonna. No.
All right,
This
sounds
needs
good to
stand.
me.
This needs to stand on its own. This is a needed reference for the community. Listen to it. It's not all rainbows, as we said in the onset, and maybe listen to it a couple times because it's deep.
So Corey has given both I and Marcus some final words of encouragement, and I'm going to give Corey the honor, friend of the show, the honor of giving our listeners, giving anybody out there who may hear his voice, his final thoughts, something that he really wants us to really think hard about.
Life is way too short. We have this runway of time to do something incredibly meaningful with our lives, to spend it on just worthless facades. And I think when we are able to get real, and Marcus, you nailed it. You set the tone for the entire podcast. Jeff, you were like the encore. Life's too short for that, and I think the faster we're able to shed these false things, these facades, these masks we put on, the more we're able to be human and to be better.
That sounds great to me. So, without further ado, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of WordPress Weekly, the feeling better about ourselves episode after we're all done. But great show, a lot of good stuff to take away from it, and you can find show notes for this episode and every other episode we've ever done on wptavern.com, and you can follow me on Twitter at Jeffro, JEFFR0. And Marcus?
Just Twitter, at Marcus Couch. You can go there and look at my argument that I've been having with the fans of Dave Mustaine.
Oh, geez, Megadeth, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, I might go take a look at that after the show. I'm
That's
curious.
fun.
So until next week, everybody, let's see. I don't think we have a guest on next week. However, on the 24th, we're going to have Rebecca Gill on to talk about SEO.
Yes.
And we're going to get into that, and I'm going to talk about a lot of the reasons on that show, specifically why we're going to have her on. And, boy, SEO has changed over the years, so we're going to get into that on that show. It's going to be a great one. And then on the 31st, at the end of the month, we're going to have Gabe on from GoDaddy, and we're going to talk about product developments and things that have been going on over there at GoDaddy, and we'll be able to give us find out what's going on over there, see if anything exciting. So until then, everybody enjoy the rest of your week. Hug your loved ones. Shed all that facade. Life is too short. Live it the best you can, and we'll talk to you again next Wednesday evening.